Alrighty, folks, we are back with another spreadsheet breakdown. Last ranked video I put out of playing Terra in solo lane got a request to do a breakdown of how we can maximize her empowered shield rush, which is called Wild Rush. That ability kind of max out the damage and healing or shield you can get from it. So that's what we've developed here. Really turned it into more of a full build analysis on Terra with some, some builds put together and some items put in here, but we're focusing on this Wild Rush ability. Now, if we look at the ability screen breakdown of Terra and you try to read this Wild Rush alternate ability, it's kind of a weird wording and a long read, but it says channeling for up to 4 seconds upon dashing, she deals damage that scales up and gets 75% physical power boosted for the physical damage that it does. And then it says for the first 1.25 seconds of the channel, the range and damage increase, dealing up to 360 at final rank plus 225% of your physical power has physical damage. Now that's kind of an odd read. The empowered, obviously on enemy hit, you gain a shield that at the end of the game will be 230 plus 14% of your built health as a shield for 4 seconds, which is really strong. That's really what makes this ability so crazy. That and the fact that it gets 225 physical power scaling. But that's a weird read. It kind of is hard to understand what that means. So what I did is I went into here in the training zone, and we pulled up the ability, and we're going to show off what it actually does. It's a more concise read here. You can see charge up and dash forward, channel to increase range, and then it gives you the damage range that it scales to. So basically that minimum damage number is just if you hit the ability and instantly let it go. You see that time I was empowered, so I got the shield as well, but if you just hit it and let it go is what the minimum number that you get is. And then you only have to channel it for 1.25 seconds to get the damage up to the maximum number. Now, obviously, this steel has a lot of armor, so I'm not going to do the number that it says right there on the ability. But what I also want you to notice is there's a white ring on the ground when you're channeling the ability. And you see there I didn't have it fully channeled, so it did less damage than the previous time. But if you watch that white ring, when it closes in fully around Terra, like that, and does that little white flash, and that has a sound cue as well, is when you have channeled for 1.25 seconds, and it is now going to deal its maximum damage, which is quite a lot. You see here it is again, there's that white flash around her feet and particle effect. So that's how you know that you're getting max damage out of it. It's a little bit of a easier read to read the ability in game. You can also see here the range is quite long, but it does not take the full channel duration to reach that length. So you can see charge it all the way up here, and then you can hit people from way far out with this, and get a nice little shield, little empowered shield there as well that time. So really strong ability overall. I understand why someone would want me to build around this ability. So looking back in here, keeping in mind this is basically how the ability works. You're either getting, if you just press the button and instantly release it, if you're touching them in melee range, you're getting 120 plus 75% of your physical power. But if you channel it for 1.25 seconds, get that white flash and particle effect, then you're getting 360 plus 225 physical power, which is a pretty absurd amount for someone who's this tanky. And then the shield is always the same. After it's leveled, it's not dependent on how far your channel dash is or how long you've been channeling, but it is 230 plus 14% of your built health. Also, her ult passive at rank 3 gives you 26 of both armors, which is very strong. That's just a nice passive to have for leveling your ultimate. So we're keeping that in mind on this spreadsheet. Also wanted to say this is going to be the last spreadsheet deep dive that we look at or that I produce for you guys prior to the full release patch on August 20th. or at least until we get the patch notes on that, because I feel like a lot of heroes are going to get adjusted for that 1.0 full patch. A lot of items are going to get changed around, and I don't want to make a bunch of outdated, you know, spreadsheets for you guys to use right before the patch. So what I've done here is I've tried to make a spreadsheet for you guys to use. If you want to get a hold of the spreadsheet, I'll put it in the description or in the comments or both. And you can get yourself a copy of this spreadsheet and play around in it. So keeping that in mind, what I've done is put basically every item that I can foresee being usable on Terra. There's probably some other ones that I didn't put in here that you could squeeze some value out of, but I've gone through the warrior tree and I've separated them out here. So I've gone through the warrior tree, put all the items in, and I've put in what they give you as far as power, health, and armor. I didn't want to go through the rest of the stats because a lot of them are not that consequential, and it would be a huge table here to go through. So power, health, and then this tree, or this column, is total power after Overlord, because Overlord I originally was thinking you might not get the most value out of it because you're not auto attacking that much with Terra. But then I realized you have to auto attack basically 5 times, or at least hit 5 abilities, to keep stacking up her passive, empowerment of her abilities. So you will get good value out of it. And if you're building big health builds, which is what you're going to want to do to get this shield to be as big as possible, then the big health is also going to give you more power. And more power is very valuable on Terra if you're getting 225% scaling from your power on the ability hits. So taking a look, we've got all the warrior items here, and the breakdown. We've got all the items from the rogue tree. These are based off the trees on the main menu if you're looking through the items from there. So these are the items that I think you can get good value out of from the rogue tree. Again, there might be 1 or 2 that I've left out here. The Titan tree, or the tank tree where the Titan starter is. A lot of good health and armor items in that tree that you're potentially building on Terra a lot of games. And then the true support tree, the tree that has the Guardian item in it, the Guardian starter. Put some of those in here as well. Again, not as many, but because a lot of those give you magic power, which she does not need at all. So a couple of those that you can get good value out of. And then the starters, I don't think you're building anything other than the warrior starter, the rogue starter, or the titan starter on her. You could build like the carry starter, but I mean, you're doing some really niche off meta stuff if that's what you're going for. So I've listed these all out here. This calculation is just, the power plus the power you would get from your health if you built Overlord. If you're planning on not building Overlord, then you can, disregard this column completely. But yeah, anyway, like I've said, I've built this table out here and this spreadsheet out here so that you can use it yourself. And I've color coded it and everything. Last tree here, last column here in the table is just other value, similar to my breakdown on the building on Crunch. I've kind of simplified everything that's not listed here into what other value does it give you. So like Overlord, I've got it at a 9 because it gives you a ton of power, and it gives you area damage around your autos, and it just gives you a lot of bonuses there. So any stat that's not listed here and the passive is wrapped up into this. This is subjective, of course, so you may want to re-rank these or number these however you feel, but I think I've done a pretty good job there. And then at the end, I've color-coded some green and some yellow highlights on some certain spots on this table on items that give you particularly good power or pin value. When I did the magic power breakdown and then the follow-up testing and training, I found that pin is really just extremely valuable, because even if other heroes don't build armor, they're going to have armor at the end of the game from their leveling up. So pin is super valuable, especially percent pin. And then the green ones I have put as items that give you good tank value or survivability. So you're going to need that. I mean, there's no way around it. You're going to want to build a bunch of health, like I said, if you want to get a big shield out of this ability as well. So Going through here, a couple standouts. Salvation, you know, it gives you a ton of physical power and a ton of health. So after Overlord, you're looking at 52 power, 52 and a half power just from it. Same thing with Tainted Blade. If you want anti-heal, you know, if you need anti-heal, this is going to be even better value because you're gonna be a nice proccing passive. And then, like, you know, as the example here, Salvation, I've color coded the total power yellow because you get a ton of total power, but the passive gives you survivability because it gives you that shield when you go below 40% health on a cooldown. So gives you I've coded that green for you. Same thing with Citadel, big power. You know, it also gives you ignore. Oh, looks like we've okay. Maybe that will reconnect here soon. Maybe not. I don't know what the deal is with that, but Citadel, the passive gives you armor ignore, but it also gives you stacking armor for people that are nearby you and stuff like that. So very good value overall. We're not going to go through all of these. You can, you know, check it out for yourself or pause here and take a look at it. You know, Demon Edge, a lot of power. Dread gives you, gives you some magical armor. So nice little extra value there. You're probably not building Dread though, really most of the time on Terra. And then in the Titan tree, you know, you've got Unbroken Will, gives you % scaling on your armor when you get immobilized, so really strong. Giant's Ring, Tainted Bastion, Stonewall all give you % mitigation, so really strong late game. Crystalline is one of the only really high magic armor items in this game. Magic armor items are kind of weaker in general than the physical armor items, so, you know, if you need it, you know, if you're dealing with a big magical comp, it's there. And then Warden's Faith obviously gives you crit mitigation, but it also gives you 70 physical armor, which is, you know, quite a lot, quite insane. Dawnstar, again, you know, good value. You know, like I said, we're not going to go through all these. Dynamo is nice because it gives you % damage after you immobilize somebody, which your shield rush is going to proc. So all these items are here. Take a look at the items for yourself. Put together your own builds if you're interested in them. This will give you a huge head start at organizing items and sorting items if you're interested in doing it for yourself. Now, onto the builds here. I've got 4 builds put together. Kind of a mixture of some min-maxing in different areas. Again, this little builds table for each one is going to give you a big head start if you want to open this spreadsheet and just formulate your own 6-item builds in here, because I've got the formulas already in here for your total power, the overlord power added, the armor, and these armor spots include the 26 armor that she gets for physical and magical base from her passive, from her ult passive. And then right here at the bottom, I've calculated the pre-pin damage on her Wild Rush. So, you know, there's that. It's based off of her power. And then the Wild Rush shield, which is based off of her built health. So these are the 4 builds that I've got cooked up. We'll go through them real quick. They're not complicated. A lot of these items people are building on Terra anyway, so this is really just to give you some ideas. You know, if you're playing Terra in solo, you're building to your opponent pretty much every game. I mean, if you're playing Terra in jungle or support or anywhere else, you're building to your opponents as well, I hope. But these are just some min-max ideas so you can see what items really come out to be the most valuable. So first one I did was based upon the actual request. I'll put that comment up on the screen here again. And it was for the most damage. This build specifically is for the most damage that you can get out of this Wild Rush. So this is what I've put together. It does produce a ridiculous amount of damage on the Wild Rush. You see that we got the Rogue starter item in here because it gives you power and it gives you flat pin. So it's really nice. The key to getting the most damage out of this Wild Rush is going to be the pin, because you've already got, you know, you've got great scaling, so building big power is nice, but if you don't have the pin, it's just not going to work out. You know, that damage number isn't going to translate. So on this build, we've gone for big pin, built Rogue Starter, Tainted Blade, because it gives you that massive amount of power after Overlord. Overlord, of course, because that's how you get, that's how you get this power number versus this power number. So, I mean, almost 40 power difference just for building Overlord on a build like this is well worth it. I mean, you could swap Overlord out for something, but how much more power are you going to get? You're not going to get, you can't build any physical power items that give you 70 physical power. So Overlord is a great value here, giving you that much more physical power. So Demon Edge, again, it's another item that's in here for its power, its health, and Flat Pin. Perforator, of course, big power. Doesn't give you any extra health, but it gives you that 28% armor ignore, which is just huge. That's way more penetration than any sort of flat pin is going to yield you late game. So, and it makes your abilities slow, so it's nice for hitting your 1 and everything on people. Overlord, as I said, necessary. Penumbra is not an item that you're realistically going to build very much, but it does yield you a lot of power. If you're going for multi-kills or something, or hunting down a group in a big team fight out of jungle, you could get good value out of its passive, but mainly it's in here because 45 physical power after Overlord and an extra 6 flat pin isn't going to hurt. And then finally, Citadel. Citadel is just a strong item. I mean, the fact that it gives you power, health, and armor is crazy. With such a good passive, this passive is essentially a 20% armor reduction to nearby enemies, which is just great. I mean, like I said, late game, any sort of percent reductions or pin is going to be king. So all of that comes out to big power, decent health too, because you're getting it from a lot of items. Some physical armor, no magical other than her ult passive. 25 flat pin from these, which is quite a lot. That's going to help you just get through squishies really easily. I guess I could have included her armor from leveling here, but that's not good for calculating Stonewall and stuff. So her armor will be higher than this, obviously, because when you level, you get armor each level. But the main thing is, you've got this 28% ignore and this 20% reduction. Now, obviously, these aren't additive because your reduction is hitting them as an aura. So you're taking their 20% off the top first, and then you're 28% ignoring what is left by that. So, the way that it works out, if you calculate the 20% reduction first and then follow it with a 28% ignore, it's effectively a 42.4% armor pin, but the 20% reduction is going to be helping your whole team because it's an aura. So having 25 flat pin plus 42% ignore essentially is ridiculous because the wild rush damage comes out to near 1,000 pre-pin. So this is going to do an absurd number when you land this fully charged on somebody. And since you've got the health built, it's going to give you a decent shield to go with it. So to answer the comment and the question, how do I get the most damage out of a Wild Rush charge? This is it. It's not something you can practically build in solo. Even in support, or even in jungle, you're probably not practically building this exact build because you're going to get deleted still late game unless you're just really good and really mobile and everything and have good positioning. But this is it. Huge damage with the pin to back it. This would be an interesting one to test, but I don't know if you really want to, copy this for your jungler Terra builds by any means. Now, on the other side of it, I wanted to see how can you maximize the Wild Rush shield. So you see I've coded this one orange for the damage, and I've coded this one blue for the shield. This build's pretty straightforward. You just build as much health as you can so that shield number will be as big as possible. And the way I've done that is with Titan starter. These are the stats, by the way, for the fully evolved version of the Titan starter. So any of the 3 that evolve off of the Rogue starter give you this stat line. Just like any of the 3 that evolve off the Titan starter give you this stat line. So here it is, huge health, Salvation, Remnant for 700 health, Unbroken Will, Overlord, Fire Blossom, Bonesaw, so massive amount of health, building almost 3,200 health by the end of the game. And since you're building that much health, you're getting good value out of Overlord, which is why Overlord is still in here. So you're getting 80 power just from this health number. You know, just from the Overlord health number, you're getting 80 power. So still definitely worth building Overlord. Got a little bit of armor in the build, you know, time you factor in her passive ult's 26, and the fact that she'll have more from leveling. But this one comes out to having a 675 rated shield when you hit that empowered Wild Rush. So that's quite a big shield considering you're also going to have an added, you know, 3180 health. So, you know, you put that big shield on top of your already massive health bar, you're not going to get deleted as fast as you normally would, but you don't really have that much armor, so you're not going to be able to sustain fights as well. And I didn't crunch the numbers for your ability haste, but I'm sure you have decent ability haste from some of these items. Actually, not really that much now that I'm looking at them, but you'll have some. So if you can just keep proccing your Wild Rush, then you can keep this shield up. It'll mitigate a ton of damage for you. So there's how you maximize the Wild Rush shield. Just build a bunch of health, basically. Now, no pin on this build because it's just building health and armor items and Overlord for the power, so no pin. So this 775 number is not, you're not going to hit anywhere near close to that when you actually hit someone because you don't have any pin to back it. So then I went ahead and built one that is maybe more practical because it's going to keep you alive longer, and I titled it the full tank build here. Let me scoot this over a little bit. This is the full tank build. This is basically maximizing armor on her because she gets that 26 passive physical and magical armor. I figured if you maximize armor on her, she has a chance to be even more survivable than about any other tank because she just, you know, it's hard to get the damage to her in the first place unless they're building as much pin as they should. And a lot of people don't prioritize pin as highly as they should, so you know, this one's similar to the last one. You got all health and armor items, you know, Titan Starter, Warden's Faith, because it gives you crit protection and then 5% physical power reduction aura, which is really nice on it. You know, you can't beat that. Stonewall gives you the health, gives you 60 physical armor, which is great. And then on top of that, you're getting physical damage mitigated based off of how much armor you have. And since you have such a big armor number, which the number will be even higher than this, of course, because you'll have your leveling armor. Or actually, I think Stonewall only goes off of your built armor. So this is the number that it will be proccing. So you'll be getting an extra 15% physical damage mitigated just right off the rip from having Stonewall. And then Unbroken Will, you know, big health, good magical armor, but the passive on it comes out on this build with how much armor you have here to mean that once you're immobilized, you get an extra 52 physical and 38 magic bonus armor after being immobilized, which is great. The more armor you have, the better value Unbroken Will is, so gotta be included on this build. Then you've got Tainted. You know, you're gonna need anti-heal in here if you're the full tank because you're not dealing that much damage. And it gives you good magical armor, and it gives you percent mid. So, I mean, percent mitigation you can't beat. 3% if you haven't procced the Tainted Bastion passive on people, and then an extra 3% if you have procced it on people. So, love that mitigation of both magical and physical. Giant's Ring, you know, another physical or another percent mitigation item when you hit her ult, and obviously also when you hit her ult, you get extra armor from her passive. So, you're just going to be basically unkillable with that Giant's Ring and her ult. Huge mitigation and huge armor number on top. And then Crystalline because it's the best magical armor item in the game. You know, once the passive stacks up, you get another bonus 30 physical or another 30 magical bonus armor. So there's the full tank build. Very heavy on the armor side. You know, when you're under ult and everything's proccing and you have your level armor, I would assume you're getting close to, you know, yeah, I mean, huge numbers here, because crits are going to be doing less to you as well. I mean, this is going to be a very unkillable build. Now you're not going to do very much damage because you have no pin and you don't have any power, like literally 0 built power. But that's why it's called a full tank build. So there it is. You still get a big shield from the Wild Rush and powered. 570 is quite nice. It's going to take them longer to burn that shield down too with all your armor. And then, Wild Rush damage, it does 360 base. So 360 is what you've got pre-pin, it is what it is. Now finally, I've got a probably more practical solo laner build for you here. I've called it the heal solo lane because it's based on healing your damage back rather than just taking none in the first place like the full tank build. And it's got a good mix of power and health and armor. That way you can mitigate some damage on the front end and then deal enough damage to heal back up with your lifesteal and omnivamp in this. So I've got warrior starter because it's kind of the best one for the kind of all around damage and health option because you get the omnivamp from it. Mutilator for more omnivamp and good power and good percent damage passive, so can't complain. Citadel because it gives you everything you're looking for as well as a very strong passive, so it's going to give you a little bit of effective pin on the reduction. You see right here, Citadel, 20% reduction. So I mean that is going to let you hit a lot harder, which you need to hit hard in order to get your healing back because you're healing through omnivamp. So I like that. Mist Meadow, again, big power, no health unfortunately, but it gives you extra omnivamp here, so very nice to have. Oh, I'm just now realizing this is not correct because we do not have Overlord in this build, which means your total power is actually going to be this number, so we'll just correct this real quick. To go off of N. Yeah, so correct that real quick for you. You're not getting this power number because Overlord is not in this build, so you're getting 172 power at the end of the game, not this big 208 number. I guess you could try to fit Overlord in there somewhere, but you really don't need it. Not the way this build is set up. So anyway, continuing on, we got Tainted Guard. You need anti-heal, whether you're the solo laner or the your jungler tank or whatever. You're going to need anti-heal. So this gives you good health, good armor with 45. Cannot complain about that, and a decent passive to proc on people too to put a little extra on them. Mesmer. Now this one is kind of debatable. You may not want to build Mesmer, but I put it in here because it gives you extra survivability with the passive. That it will block an ability, every so often. And also it gives you a pin item, a flat pin item. So nice to have at least one pin item in here. And it gives you extra health. You could swap this one out for like Salvation or Overlord or something if you want more survivability. You could swap it out for an extra armor item. You could swap it out for the Galaxy Greaves if you wanted just some of both armor, stuff like that. But having some flat pin is always nice because once you have 20% reduction from Citadel, then you have 8 flat pin to go with it. It's going to make you actually put out some more decent damage, which you definitely need to get your Omnivamp up. And then Void Helm at the end here because big health, good armor, and a good passive for 15% extra healing to keep you refilling your health based off this damage that you're doing. So we can see the Wild Rush damage pre-pin now corrected to go off of this physical power number because we don't have Overlord in the build. Comes out to 747. Still a very respectable amount of damage considering how good of scaling this ability has, giving you 225% of this. And then the shield's also pretty big too, even though you only have 1450 health built here. So still a respectable shield, good value on the procs. Good armor here. This is not factoring in your mitigation or your your level armor or anything like that. This is only factoring in your not under ult, passive ult armor. So take a look at these 4 builds. You could stop the video if you want at any of these points and you know, analyze them for yourself, or you can just get a hold of this spreadsheet and play with it some and develop some of your own builds, or even just look at these items that I have highlighted here that give you good value. You know, see Citadel is highlighted in the power and in the tank value. So any items like that, you know, are definitely usable. Even Dawnstar and Dynamo here are very usable items because you get the 20 power from Dynamo's passive, so that'll help you out even more. Even though I didn't include it in any of these, it could easily get you good value. So that's going to do it for this Terra breakdown. I know we went a little long, but we had a lot of builds to analyze and talk about. Terra is very strong right now and is the meta essentially at solo lane, potentially jungle. I even have a video of me playing her in ranked support coming soon, so to be on the lookout for that. Just extremely hard to deal with in this meta right now. The CC based meta, the fact that she can hit her ult and just immune all that CC. You know, after she hits that, the only thing she's got to worry about is like a Decker cage coming down or something like that. So thanks for watching, guys, and sticking through it. I know a lot of people enjoy these number crunching breakdowns, and you know, so people have been using these spreadsheets, so I wanted to make this spreadsheet with you guys in mind on your usability end. So thanks for watching and supporting the channel. We've been growing like crazy. I've got some more stuff coming soon. We've got a new mic on the way here, so we're going to hopefully get some better audio quality, some more professional stuff going on here. Check out some of those recent videos that we've put out. You know, I had some good ones this week. I had that Drongo Game 2 in rank that I played. Another very successful Drongo game. Drongo is very strong at the carry position right now. Check out the tier list that we updated. You've probably only got a couple more weeks of that tier list being valid before this August 20th patch changes things around. So we will do a completely new tier list when that August update hits, the full launch 1.0. But check that out. And yeah, check out we've been playing with Crunch quite a bit, trying to figure out, you know, how to get the most out of Crunch. I did the Crunch numbers spreadsheet, and I've been since doing some standard games, testing different builds. So look for some more of those coming. There's already one game out of that testing, and of course the actual spreadsheet video itself. So thanks for enjoying the videos, guys. Hopefully you can get some good use out of this spreadsheet. Like I said, I'll put it in the comments or in the description or both. And another reminder, this is going to be the last spreadsheet number crunching video that I do prior to the August 20th patch. You know, I got a request recently to do one of these for Shinbi, and I would be glad to do that, as well as for some other heroes, or maybe for some other stats, like do one for health and armor, or do one, I definitely want to do one comparing gold values, so you can see what is like the best, you know, health value per the gold or armor value per the gold and stuff like that, so you can affect when you want to build them, you know, and slide some items up in your build order versus late game in your build order if they're just not as valuable. So we're going to look at all that kind of stuff here soon, but it's going to be after the August 20th full release before we go for any more of these, because I don't want them to become outdated when that patch hits. So thanks everyone, hope you're enjoying. We will catch y'all in the next one.